Here's your wrestling news for July 11th, 2022, and we're kicking off today with Vince McMahon, who is currently under incredible scrutiny right now, as he is alleged to have been sexually inappropriate with multiple women. It was last weekend that the Wall Street Journal reported that McMahon had paid a total $12 million to 4 women, rather than the initially reported $3 million to just one woman in what could be the scandal that ends McMahon's career. McMahon's fate may be uncertain, but according to PW Insider, the ex-chairman isn't letting things get to him. They report that during the latest Smackdown tapings, things were business as usual, and that Vince was 100% in control of creative. One source described the scene backstage as the Vince McMahon show, with the ex-chairman not even acknowledging the serious claims against him. McMahon has vowed to respect the result of the investigation against him, even if it spells the end of his career, but until that investigation is concluded, McMahon and those within WWE are acting as if nothing's changed. Now, Curtis Axel and Ariya Daivari both made their names in WWE by competing in the ring, but both recently pivoted to roles backstage, though that doesn't look to be the case anymore. It was recently reported that Daivari and Axel, who WWE had been using as producers, hadn't been used much by WWE or been on the run sheet for shows. While WWE planned on using them more, the company chose to scale back on the number of producers in use for more than one segment. PW Insider now reports that both men were relieved of their duties last week, making last Friday's Smackdown a much more difficult task, with 2 producers less. The remaining producers have been described as extremely overworked as of late, and would have no doubt appreciated being able to have Axel or Daivari around. As if missing 2 producers wasn't bad enough, the show also saw Adam Pearce taking on the point position and Jason Jordan, who currently oversees all producers, not at the show, as he and his wife are expecting a baby. The report adds, "There had been a big push for more producers to be added right after WrestleMania due to the insane workload and the time the company expects of the producers. That is what led to the probationary additions." At this time, it's unclear if either man will be brought back to resume their roles, or if anyone else will be affected by this latest round of budget cuts. Both former superstars were offered producer roles back in April after WrestleMania 38, and it was reported that Axel was officially hired back in June. The former Intercontinental Champion even had a brief cameo on Raw, breaking up a fight between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, but now he and Daivari, like so many more, have been future endeavored. Earlier this month, Logan Paul signed a multi-year contract with WWE, one of the biggest signings for the company in recent years. While Paul isn't a wrestler, he comes to WWE bringing a massive fan base with him, and whether other fans like it or not, he'll be a regular on WWE shows. Speaking to Nick Hausman this week, Drew McIntyre was asked his thoughts about Logan Paul, and the Scottish Warrior has been impressed by what he's seen. "I don't know what kind of contract it is, if he's full-time, if he signed for a series of matches, but he did impress me at WrestleMania. He's obviously an incredible athlete, and he's obviously a fan of our product. You don't just come in and do as good a job as he did without knowing our job well enough." McIntyre went on to admit that he realizes how many people detest Logan Paul, which may cause some problems for the young signing. "He's an entertainer, he gets it. He's genuinely a bad guy. He's one of the most hated people on planet Earth. I assume that's just him. If not, kudos to him, that's what sells tickets. People want to see guys like him get beat up." Logan Paul may be a natural heel, but he will be presented as a babyface for his feud with The Miz, despite the reaction the controversial boxer/YouTuber will get from the fans. We've got some news from Bianca Belair next, who was recently the victim of a crime. Part of Belair's appeal to fans is her colorful outfits, many of which she creates herself, but the Raw Women's Champion is now missing one attire. On Instagram, the EST of WWE revealed that her gear from last year's Survivor Series has been stolen, and she said that it may be sold online. Last November's Premium Live event saw Belair win for Team Raw, leading Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Queen Zelina against SmackDown's Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi, Natalya, and Toni Storm. Sadly, Belair isn't the first WWE superstar to be a victim of theft, as Gunther had his WWE United Kingdom title stolen in December 2019, while Rhea Ripley had her gear stolen last December. Hopefully, Bianca will be reunited with her Survivor Series 2021 gear, which no doubt has great sentimental value for her as a memory of one of several huge nights in her career. Over to AEW now, as FTR have impressed fans both before and during their time with the company, and currently hold the Ring of Honor, IWGP, and AAA World Tag Team titles. With their old-school mentality and cohesive in-ring work, many fans consider FTR the greatest tag team of today and one of the best teams of all time. It's not just fans who think this, as when Sportskeeda asked if FTR are the best tag team today, former WWE personality Kathy Kelly replied with a question of her own, asking if hell is hot. Kelly clearly believes that the answer to whether FTR are the best tag team today isn't just yes, but that it is painfully obvious that they are. Both members of FTR would respond to Kathy, clearly agreeing with the former WWE correspondent, and given the duo's success since leaving WWE, in addition to being the first WWE Tag Team Triple Crown winners, it's hard not to be impressed by FTR. Last month, AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling teamed up for the Forbidden Door event, which saw stars from both companies compete. Unfortunately, the show had to go on without some top names from AEW, as World Champion CM Punk and Bryan Danielson were both unable to make the show due to injuries. One name who was at the show was Will Osprey, who faced off with Orange Cassidy, and when speaking to Wrestle In, mocked Punk and Danielson for missing out. Orange Cassidy had done like a hell of a job, I think. Everyone can agree with me on that. I can kind of say, hand on heart, like, I stole the show. I completely stole it. I know, that was great. I know how good it was down to Orange, the referee, the camera crew, and everything. The crowd was amazing. I loved performing in Chicago. On AEW's side of theming, it was built around your Bryan Danielsons, your CM Punks, and your Kennys, and obviously on our side of things, it was kind of built around Kazuchika Okada, Jay White, and myself, and just like, we delivered on our side of things. AEW sunk millions on those guys, they're too fragile to show up. While CM Punk is expected to be back soon enough, Bryan Danielson's future remains very unclear, and we'll just have to keep waiting for both men, in addition to Kenny Omega, to be back in the ring. Bryan's last match saw him compete at Double or Nothing, and given his history of injuries, it's hardly surprising that Tony Khan is being cautious. In a recent interview with the New York Post, Khan recalled shutting down Bryan when the former WWE World Champion insisted he was good to go for Forbidden Door. I don't think it was a good thing Bryan got hurt. I think that's one of the worst things, but he's doing much better. I talk to him a few times a week. I talked to him on Wednesday when we were in St. Louis for Road Rager, and I talked to Bryan, and Bryan was like, I feel great, I'm ready to come back, and I'm gonna fight Zack Sabre, and we're gonna go to Blood and Guts. Let's go, man. Then I talked to him the Saturday, 8 days before the pay-per-view, and he's not doing as well. So I immediately was like, you're not wrestling. If you're not feeling great 8 days out, I don't care if you've had 7 straight days. I'm shutting you down until further notice. He has scans coming up. I'm like, I don't care what they say. They could be perfectly clear. It was injuries that led to Bryan vacating the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in 2014, the Intercontinental Championship in 2015, and having to retire in 2016. And we are certainly hoping he's able to avoid a similar fate this time around. From an established star in wrestling to a fresh face now, as Ava Raine, the daughter of The Rock, is trying to make a name for herself in WWE. Joining WWE back in May 2020, a mixture of the pandemic and an injury have halted plans for her, but now the fourth-generation wrestler is back at it. We recently reported that Raine appeared at a live event for NXT, seemingly scouting talent, and she's now done much more than that. Cutting a promo at an NXT 2.0 live event in Orlando, Raine referred to herself as the final girl and showed a lot of promise. Many fans feel like Raine should be using her real name, Simone Johnson, but WWE's rule about not using any part of a superstar's real name has put an end to those plans. Now it's up to Ava Raine to make a name for herself in WWE, but after a series of injuries, it looks like her career is finally getting on track. We've got more from the Vince McMahon saga now, as the controversial billionaire has stepped down from his roles as CEO and chairman of the company. Many have said that this could be the end of Vince's reign on top of the wrestling industry, but one of his longest-serving employees isn't convinced. Chris Jericho was with WWE on and off for nearly 20 years before joining AEW, and on the True Geordie podcast, argued that McMahon won't get into any real trouble. Jericho claimed that McMahon hasn't done anything illegal and that the worst case is that Vince had an affair, paid for the woman not to say anything, and that was it. Unfortunately for Jericho, it seems his comments were made before the updated Wall Street Journal article, which claims that McMahon coerced a female employee into sex and had her demoted when she later refused. Whether Vince McMahon ever returns to being in charge of WWE, that remains to be seen, but the ex-chairman's days may indeed be numbered, despite what he or Jericho believe. Now, Booker T is one of wrestling's most decorated legends, with 6 world titles and 2 Hall of Fame inductions to his name. Booker's last match for WWE was back in 2012, where he competed at a live event, but that doesn't mean his time in the ring is over. During a recent event at Reality of Wrestling, Booker's own promotion, the former WCW World Champion looked absolutely shredded while running the ropes. The wrestler-turned-podcast host had previously stated that he will continue wrestling until his body won't allow it anymore, and judging by how he looked last night, that may still be a long time away. During a recent episode of AEW programming, Christian Cage was confronted by Matt Hardy, which led to a reference being made about Matt's brother Jeff. Addressing Jeff's recent DUI arrest, the heel Cage said that Matt's comments against him made Jeff seem like the sober one, but this is hardly the first time Jeff's real-life issues have been used on screen. Jeff's trouble with substances was often referred to in WWE, with Sheamus referencing Hardy's run-in with the law just a few years ago. While speaking on the Busted Open podcast, Mark Henry hit out at both companies for these angles, saying, "The fans, they're gonna do what they want to do. Bully. This is not WWE, this is not AEW that are making these comments. They both did the same thing. Now how do fans relate to that is up to the fans. In my opinion, I probably would have speared away from using it, but Christian, man, him and Sheamus both, for me, I wouldn't have done it. No, I don't like getting this personal, but it was effective, both of them, Sheamus and Christian, using it, and one have more fallout than the other, but I think it's recency bias too. The first time they did it, oh, that's bullshit. Second time, they're tolerant." AEW has suspended Jeff without pay until he makes a full recovery, and while Tony Khan has said that this is Hardy's first and last chance at AEW, he may also want to consider what is appropriate for his shows. And we're ending today with The Undertaker, who back in April took his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame, and had plenty to say about his 3-decade career with the company. During his speech, the Phenom spoke about many of his iconic opponents and feuds, but there was one name who wasn't given the nod. During the speech, The Undertaker didn't mention Mick Foley, despite their legendary matches in the past, including their infamous Hell in a Cell encounter from King of the Ring 1998. Speaking to Bleacher Report, The Undertaker reacted to the criticism of this omission, saying he's talked about Mick in the past at length. "I delivered the speech and got everything out there that I wanted to say. I got a little bit of blowback for not mentioning a couple of people, but it wasn't about, if I go through every angle, every opponent, it was more about these 3 pillars that I referenced back when I'm talking about Shawn Michaels that had a direct meaning to never being content. That's why I talked so much about Shawn, then Triple H. I've talked about Mick Foley until I'm blue in the gills. It was about my journey and the things I've learned through those 30+ years that I was trying to share and help people in their lives and thank the WWE Universe. That's what it was all about. If anyone was offended, I'm sorry." After the speech, Foley himself said he wasn't bothered, saying he forgot to mention his own wife, as their classic encounters will always be fondly remembered, no matter if they were missed during the speech this past April. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.